Prometheus and the fire of awakening. The daylight faded. Night draped the earth in a dark veil, as if the great goddess Nyx had embraced the world. Stars slowly ignited in the sky, like flickers of memory from ancient times. Everything stilled, slowed. And in this silence, in this anticipation, like a whisper of eternity, a story emerges, old as humanity itself, eternal as the stars. The story of Prometheus. When the world was young and humans were mere shadows of what they would become, the gods of Olympus dwelt on the highest mountain, watching the earth like parents over their children. Humans were weak, naive, voiceless. They shivered in the cold, hid from beasts, and lived in constant fear. They didn't know fire, didn't understand how to keep warm or light the night. Their lives were driven by instinct, not reason. But one Titan looked at humans, not with the haughty indifference of others, but with compassion. His name was Prometheus, meaning forethinker, and it was true. He saw that humanity could achieve greatness. He saw not just pity, but potential. In every person smoldered a spark of reason, creativity, and courage. He could no longer stand by in silence. Prometheus appealed to Zeus, ruler of Olympus, asking to give humans fire, not just flame for warmth, but fire as knowledge, enlightenment, and progress. Zeus refused. He deemed humans unworthy, weak, unready. Fire could give them power, but also pride and rebellion. The gods didn't want to lose control. So Prometheus made a choice that forever changed history. He stole fire from Hephaestus, the god of the forge, and brought it to humanity. Hiding a glowing ember in a hollow reed, he slipped through the clouds unnoticed and, descending to earth, offered the flame to primitive tribes. Fire blazed in caves. For the first time, humans saw the night retreat. They cooked food, warmed themselves, and drove off predators, but most importantly, they began to think. With fire came culture. The first drawings appeared on cave walls. The first stories were told around hearths, and the first steps toward art and science were taken. Prometheus became a symbol of hope for humans. He visited their dreams, teaching crafts and guiding them. It's said he taught them writing, numbers, building, and medicine. His act awakened humanity from the slumber of instinct. But on Olympus, rage erupted. Zeus, learning of the Titan's betrayal, was furious. He couldn't allow the boundaries he'd set to be broken. He devised a punishment as eternal as the crime. Prometheus was seized. By Zeus's command, he was chained to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains. Day after day, an eagle, Zeus's own bird, came to peck at his liver. Yet each time the organ regrew, and the torment began anew. It was a horrifying immortality of pain. But Prometheus didn't scream or beg. He knew his suffering wasn't in vain. Humans didn't forget him. Echoes of his story linger in the tales of many cultures. The one who brought light, who defied authority to save the weak. Prometheus's name became a symbol of unyielding spirit, sacrifice for the greater good, and strength against injustice. But the story doesn't end there. His punishment wasn't eternal. After many years, as the heroic age dawned, a man worthy of altering fate appeared. His name was Hercules. Passing through the Caucasus during one of his labors, he saw the suffering Titan and couldn't walk away. With his mighty strength, he killed the eagle and broke the chains. Thus, Prometheus was freed. Hercules not only liberated the great sufferer, but also affirmed that humanity had grown to understand Prometheus's sacrifice. People had become stronger, heroes emerged, and the fire in their hearts no longer depended on the gods. Since then, stories of Prometheus have been told around. Campfires whispered in caves written on scrolls, and inspired artists, philosophers, and poets. His image has endured through the ages, a universal symbol of sacrifice and knowledge. Now imagine you're lying under a blanket. hearing the distant echo of chains and eagle wings in the mountains. But there's no pain anymore, only memory remains. The fire once stolen now burns in every home, every lamp, every screen, but the true fire is the one within. Prometheus reminded humans that seeking light isn't a crime, it's a right. And even if it brings suffering, the light is worth it, because it awakens, warms, and inspires. It makes us human. Sleep now. Let the Titan with kind eyes and a flaming hand visit you in your dreams, saying, "You can. You are worthy." The spark is already in you, and night is just a shadow between two dawns. The transformation of Olympus and the birth of the first woman, night, continued to wrap the world in its dark veil, absorbing all sounds. Only far away, on mountaintops, flickered the lights of homes humans built around the fire Prometheus brought. But at this time, as stars grew brighter and the world sank into silence, a new chapter began on Olympus, the story of how the first woman was created. Prometheus, through his sacrifice and unyielding spirit, gave humans fire, and with it came freedom. But like any gift, freedom carried responsibility. Humans grew bolder, more independent, and this shift didn't go unnoticed by the gods. Their calm was disrupted, and the gods gathered on Olympus to discuss this new, unprecedented phenomenon. Zeus, as always, led the gods, his anger fierce. He sensed humans becoming too independent, their potential a threat to the order the gods had established. His concern grew, and he decided to create a woman who would symbolize that not all freedom should be absolute. He ordered Hephaestus to mold her from clay, then summoned all the gods to Olympus. Each deity, aware of their role in this grand act, bestowed a gift upon her. Aphrodite, goddess of love, gave her beauty that captivated and awed. Apollo, god of music and poetry, gifted her a voice like the sweetest melody. Hermes, god of messengers and cunning, granted her eloquence and the art of persuasion. Athena, goddess of wisdom, gave her skill in crafts and artistry. Hera, goddess of marriage, instilled a desire for order and family care. And Demeter, goddess of fertility, gave her the power to create and sustain life. There she stood, beautiful and enigmatic, the embodiment of all the gods' gifts. They named her Pandora, meaning all gifted. Every movement was harmonious, every glance a promise of something great and unknown. Yet despite her beauty, Pandora was unaware of her true nature. The gods didn't reveal the full truth, concealing a fateful element of her existence. They decided to send Pandora to Epimetheus, Prometheus's brother, who was far less wise and cautious. Epimetheus lived on Earth and, in his naivety, couldn't foresee the trouble her arrival might bring. Zeus knew Epimetheus, like all humans, wouldn't resist her charm. When she came to him, he accepted her without question as a gift, a miracle from the heavens. Pandora, unaware of her true role, soon settled in Epimetheus's home. But with her came a vessel, a grand treasure sealed shut, adorned with intricate carvings of wondrous scenes and divine beings. It was beautiful and mysterious, and Pandora was told by the gods never to open it. They didn't tell her what lay inside, but as often happens with secrets, the prohibition only fueled temptation. At first, she didn't think about the vessel. She learned to live on Earth, tended to flowers, cooked meals, spoke with people, and enjoyed life's simple joys. But the longer she stayed in Epimetheus's home, the stronger her curiosity grew. The vessel stood in a corner, silently majestic, an unsolved riddle. Day by day, her interest intensified. She began to see the vessel in her dreams. It called to her, beckoned with its presence, quiet yet persistent. Pandora tried to ignore it, but her desire to know what lay inside became overwhelming. One day when Prometheus was away, she couldn't resist. Her hands trembled as she lifted the seal. The moment the lid slipped off, dark, terrifying entities burst forth like spirits of the night. Disease, suffering, anger, hatred, jealousy, envy, deceit, all flooded the world. Everything once pure and simple became tainted by dark forces. People began to fall ill, lose loved ones, hate and destroy. Light became as rare as a lightning flash in the clouds. Horrified, Pandora slammed the vessel shut. Her heart pounded, and she felt the world around her change. She knew something irreversible had happened, but then she heard a rustle deep within the vessel. Something remained inside. It wasn't evil. It was hope, a bright spark that kept the world from drowning. In darkness, clutching the vessel, Pandora held it close. She felt hope become her last anchor. Humans could now live despite pain and suffering because a spark burned in their hearts, giving them strength to survive, believe, and move forward. Thus, the world changed forever. Suffering entered the earth, but so did the strength to overcome. Humans learned to seek light in darkness, to find meaning in life's hardest moments. Though Pandora didn't grasp the full depth of what happened, she left humanity not only her beauty, but the essence of life, the ability to hope against all odds. One dawn, stepping out of the house, Pandora saw a bright star falling from the sky. She realized it wasn't just a wonder. It was a sign, a reminder that hope is always near. In this lay her profound strength. It never abandons us, even in the darkest moments. As you fall asleep under the starry sky or sit in the quiet of night, know this: hope isn't a promise, it's a reality living in your heart. Even when the world seems dark, hope still burns like light in the night. Sleep. In that light, there's no room for fear. Young Zeus and the fall of the Titans, the world barely awake from the Golden Age seemed to hold its breath. Something was changing. Hidden in a cave on Crete, amid wild cliffs and green valleys, a child of destiny grew. His name was Zeus. He was the youngest son of the Titan Cronus and the goddess Rhea. He was the one destined to change the course of time. Nymphs, gentle spirits of nature, kind as spring itself, raised him. They sang him songs, fed him milk from the goat Amalthea, and taught him to listen to the world. The wind in the treetops, the breath of mountains, the movement of stars. Zeus absorbed the strength of nature and the wisdom of the heavens. He grew not as an ordinary child, but as a future god. Sometimes he gazed at the horizon, sensing something greater beyond his shelter. A fire burned within him, not destructive but radiant. This fire whispered that he must become a protector of order and bring justice. When Zeus became a young man, Rhea revealed the truth. She told him of Cronus, his fear, and how he swallowed his children. She recounted how she saved her youngest, Zeus, by giving Cronus a stone instead of the infant. Zeus listened silently. He felt no anger, but a sense of duty stirred in his heart. He resolved to free his siblings, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon. With Rhea's help, he prepared a special potion and mixed it into Cronus's drink. Cronus drank, and one by one, his children emerged from the darkness that had confined them. All were alive. All were reunited. This was a turning point. The Titans realized a new order was approaching. Cronus's older brothers, Titans like Oceanus, Hyperion, Coeus, and others, didn't all agree that young Zeus should rule. They chose to fight. Thus began the Titanomachy, a war between two generations of gods. Zeus, Hades, Poseidon, and their sisters didn't fight alone. Cyclopes, one-eyed blacksmiths, forged Zeus's lightning bolts, his primary weapon, radiant and mighty. Poseidon received a trident, Hades a helm of invisibility. The Titanomachy, 100-handed giants freed by Zeus from the underworld, supported him with elemental power. The battle raged for 10 years. The sky was torn by lightning, the earth groaned, and the seas roared. But don't be afraid. This wasn't chaos. It was purification. Like a storm cleansing the air, this war freed the world from fear and the weight of the past. Finally, Zeus and his allies triumphed. The Titans were defeated. Cronus, along with his rebellious brothers, was cast into Tartarus, the deepest abyss beneath the earth, guarded by the 100-handed Titanomachy. There, in eternal darkness, their era ended. The world paused, like a bird hushed after a storm. Then morning came, new, pure, fresh. A new sky shone, ruled by new gods. Zeus became king of Olympus, lord of sky and thunder. Poseidon ruled the seas, Hades the underworld. Their sisters took their places, Hera as goddess of marriage, Demeter as patron of harvests, Hestia as guardian of the hearth. They built a home on the peak of Mount Olympus, bright, lofty, radiant. From there, they watched over the world, guarding and guiding it. But they didn't interfere needlessly. They were not just rulers, they were symbols of a new order. Though the battle ended, the world retained a memory that even gods change. The old gives way to the new. This isn't destruction, it's growth. Just as night turns to morning and winter to spring. In this new world, humans felt the shift. They began building cities, praying to the gods, seeking protection and knowledge. The world grew more complex, but it gained will. People started to choose, think, and dream. And Zeus, he often looked down from Olympus, watching life unfold. His eyes held calm. He knew time was no longer an enemy. It was now an ally. Imagine him sitting on his throne, surrounded by clouds, lightning in hand, but without anger. Quietly, confidently, he guards the world's order. Sleep peacefully. The great battles are over. New stars shine in the sky. And ahead lie new stories. Achilles and his choice. The path of a hero and the price of immortality. Night enveloped the world in deep silence, with only twinkling stars reminding us that light exists in the darkness. The thoughts of those falling asleep drift into the vast expanse of the universe. But some stories burn like fire in the heart, lighting the way even in the darkest hours. One such story is that of Achilles, hero of the Trojan War, whose fate was both a triumph and a tragedy, filled with choice and immortality. Achilles was the son of the sea goddess Thetis and the mortal Peleus, king of Mycenae. His birth was foretold as a great event, for his mother knew he would become the mightiest warrior the world had ever seen. But the prophecy wasn't simple. It stated that Achilles would either live a long, obscure life or die young, with his name enduring through the ages, his glory unmatched. Thetis, desperate to spare her son a tragic fate, sought to make him immortal. To protect Achilles from all harm and disease, she dipped him in the waters of the Styx, a powerful river of the underworld that granted invulnerability. But holding him by the heel, she didn't fully submerge him, leaving that spot as his sole vulnerability. Thus he was nearly invincible, yet this weak point would define his destiny. For years, Achilles grew in safety, raised by wise mentors. He was like fire, bright, strong, powerful. No enemy could defeat him in battle, and he soon became the greatest hero of the Greek army. But the Trojan War, a great conflict raging outside the walls of an ancient city, loomed, its inevitability clear. Achilles, like all great heroes, couldn't stand aside. When the war began, Achilles was at the peak of his strength and fame. He led his troops with unparalleled skill, striking down enemies. His name was synonymous with victory, and none dared challenge him. Yet even such great power couldn't shield him from inner turmoil and doubt. The Trojan War was long and bloody, and Achilles, as a true hero, often felt his life teetering on the edge. He knew the prophecy would come true, and he faced a choice that would shape not only his future, but that of those around him. He could remain in the shadows, living long and carefree, but forgotten. Or he could fight, becoming a great hero, but doomed to a short life. Achilles faced a choice no god could. Altered on one day, a dispute with his commander, King Agamemnon, reached its peak. Feeling humiliated, Achilles withdrew from the battlefield, refusing to fight. It was a devastating decision. The Greeks began to suffer defeats, their army crumbling. Without Achilles' strength, the war against the Trojans grew increasingly hopeless. Then fate intervened. Achilles' best friend, Patroclus, who was like a brother to him, decided to take his place on the battlefield. Immortal Patroclus was so devoted to Achilles that he donned his armor and fought in his stead. But Patroclus was slain by Hector, the greatest Trojan warrior. This shattered Achilles to his core. He lost not only a friend, but a part of his humanity. Now Achilles faced another choice. His heart burned with rage and grief. He knew he had to return to battle to avenge Patroclus' death, but he also knew his fate was sealed. He couldn't stay on the sidelines. His soul craved vengeance, but he understood it would cost him his life. Achilles returned to the battlefield with fiery resolve. He faced Hector, defeated him in a great duel, and took his life. But Achilles couldn't stop. He not only killed Hector, but desecrated his body, denying him peace in death. It was a cruel act, and even other Greeks began to condemn him. Blinded by rage and pain, Achilles was ready to sacrifice his life for revenge. But as he sank deeper into fury, a reminder of his immortal nature came. The gods, unwilling to let Achilles remain ignorant, intervened. Athena, goddess of wisdom, appeared to him in a vision, warning of the true cost of his immortality. She told him glory might be beautiful, but it wouldn't bring eternal happiness. Achilles' fate was already decided, and its outcome was tragic. Despite his near invincibility, he was mortal. His weak spot, his heel, proved his undoing. Paris, a Trojan prince, shot an arrow that struck Achilles' vulnerable heel, and so, despite all his might, Achilles fell. Yet even in death, Achilles wasn't forgotten. His name lived on through the ages in endless tales and songs, celebrating both his heroism and tragedy. Achilles became a symbol of the choices every person faces. Glory and immortality are only part of the path. What matters is remembering that every choice has its price. As you lie down to sleep, thinking of heroes and their choices, know that every path in life is a choice. We can't predict what awaits, but we can choose the legacy we leave. Let Achilles' story remind you that immortal glory doesn't always bring happiness. True strength lies in remembering your humanity and valuing what you have. Sleep with this understanding: for every choice is a chance to be great, even if the path's cost is high. Sisyphus and his futile labor, the path of resilience and acceptance. Night once again cloaked the earth in shadow, and the world sank into silence. In this calm, a story once rang out, about a man doomed to eternal suffering who became a symbol of resilience and acceptance of fate. This is the story of Sisyphus, king of Ethiopia, whose life and torment became part of great myths, teaching us how to find meaning in the most hopeless circumstances. Sisyphus was no ordinary man, but a king, endowed with remarkable qualities: cunning, intelligence, and determination. Yet his strengths went beyond these traits. Sisyphus was wise and sought prosperity for his people, but his intense desire to control everything in his life and kingdom gave him no peace. Sisyphus decided nothing should be beyond his power, not even the will of the gods. He clashed directly with Zeus, the greatest of gods, and insulted his authority. Rumor has it Sisyphus even sealed Tartarus, the realm of the dead, disrupting the order of the afterlife, an unforgivable crime to the gods. They resolved to punish him in a way that would serve as a lesson to all. Zeus, with his merciless power, decreed Sisyphus's punishment for his arrogance. He was condemned to eternal labor, to push a heavy boulder up a mountain only for it to roll back down each time he neared the summit, forcing him to start anew. It was a punishment devoid of hope, an endless, purposeless path. Sisyphus became a symbol of futile labor, eternal and inconsolable. Yet, despite the meaninglessness of his task, Sisyphus didn't lose heart. There was no despair in him. He pressed on, undeterred by failures and repetition. His resilience and determination were truly heroic. His unending labor became not just a punishment, but his personal philosophy. Each push of the boulder was a trial, each fall a moment when, despite everything, he rose again. But no matter how steadfast he was, Sisyphus knew his fate wouldn't change. He could fight on, but the boulder would always roll back. He couldn't escape his punishment, yet he could choose how to face it. In that moment, he grasped a vital truth. What happens to us isn't always what matters. How we perceive it is. On his path, Sisyphus learned to find harmony within himself, despite his hopeless fate. He became a testament to the importance of inner peace in shaping our view of the external world. It was a triumph of spirit, even as reality remained unyielding. He was punished, but his resilience became his personal victory. The myth of Sisyphus teaches us a crucial lesson. Sometimes, life sets tasks that seem meaningless, difficult, or hopeless. We all face moments when it feels like we're not moving forward, just treading in place, our efforts yielding no results. But no matter how hard or futile our struggles seem, we must remember that each step forward is a move towards something greater. Sisyphus himself became an example of finding strength in the harshest circumstances. He accepted his fate and chose not to give up or despair. Though his labor was fruitless, his resilience and courage made him a myth that has endured through the centuries. Every person facing trials and hardships can find inspiration in Sisyphus's story. His path wasn't easy, and his end wasn't happy, but his spirit became immortal. Sisyphus was a man who found strength in his struggle, and that strength lives in the hearts of those who refuse to surrender, who keep going despite all obstacles. Feel how Sisyphus's story seeps into your soul, reminding you that even when the path seems endless and heavy, there's still meaning in persevering. Strength can be found in the toughest situations, and it's in accepting fate and persisting through it that we become strong. As you close your eyes, picture Sisyphus pushing his boulder, and remember that every step in life matters. Even if everything seems pointless, each action is your victory over circumstances. Sleep knowing that, like Sisyphus, you can find strength in any hardship, and futile efforts can become what ultimately lights the way. Orpheus and Eurydice, a love that cannot be contained. Night descended slowly upon the earth, as does the story you're about to hear. It's filled with longing, fear, and beauty, a tale of love that tried to conquer death, a love that defies all laws, a love that grows stronger despite everything. Orpheus was the son of Apollo, god of music, and Calliope, a muse. From childhood, he was gifted with extraordinary musical talent. Orpheus's lyre wasn't just an instrument, it was a living soul. Its sounds capable of transforming the world. Leaves on trees swayed to his melodies, rivers flowed more slowly, and stones seemed to soften, dancing to his music. Orpheus was deeply loved and revered by all. His art outshone everything. But one person in his life became more important than all else. Eurydice. Eurydice was beautiful, her radiance beyond words. When Orpheus saw her, his heart trembled as it never had before. Her eyes reflected the entire universe, her laughter, soft and tender, like the music Orpheus himself created. He fell in love instantly and she reciprocated. Their love was boundless, the only thing that mattered to Orpheus. With her, he had everything: joy, harmony, inspiration. But life, as always, is unpredictable and cruel. Soon after their blissful time together, disaster struck. While walking in a meadow, Eurydice was bitten by a venomous snake. Orpheus was horrified when he learned of it, and soon Eurydice died. His heart shattered, and his existence lost all meaning. Orpheus couldn't accept the loss. He was utterly desperate. His soul was consumed by grief, but one feeling burned in his heart: the desire to bring her back. Love wouldn't let him surrender to loss. He made a decision that forever changed his fate. Orpheus journeyed to the underworld, a realm of shadows and timelessness. With his music he tamed Hades himself, god of the underworld. Orpheus played so beautifully that even stony hearts softened, and the souls of the dead seemed to stir in response. He pleaded with Hades to return Eurydice, vowing that his love would be eternal and true. Moved by the power of Orpheus's love and music, Hades agreed. He said Orpheus could take Eurydice back, but on one condition: they must leave the underworld, without Orpheus looking back until they reached the light. Only then could he reclaim his beloved. Orpheus agreed. He walked without looking back, his heart torn by impatience, his soul gripped by longing and fear. He knew he had one chance and couldn't afford to fail. But despite all his efforts and hopes, as he sensed they were nearly at the light, he couldn't bear it. He turned around. The moment his eyes met hers, Eurydice vanished. He saw her face fade into shadow one last time, and his heart clenched. In agony, Eurydice remained in the underworld. Orpheus was condemned to solitude. From then on, his music grew sadder, more mournful. He continued to play, but his melodies now carried sorrow, pain, and the impossibility of forgetting. His music could still change the world, but it bore grief and loss. His song became one without solace. Orpheus wandered through life, avoiding people, trying not to dwell on the tragic loss. But the love burning in his heart couldn't be forgotten. It was part of him, and he couldn't let it go. He remained faithful to his love, despite everything. Orpheus's fate reminds us that sometimes even the strongest and truest love can be shattered by an invisible wall between those who remain and those who are gone. Despite all efforts, some losses can't be undone. Yet Orpheus's love lives on in his music. The music given to him was not just a gift, but a path to healing, even if its eternal pain lingers in its notes. As you lie down to sleep, imagine Orpheus's music. Feel its sorrow and the love that cannot fade despite all trials. Sleep with the thought that love, like life, may not be eternal, but it remains part of us, its strength able to outlast even death. Perseus and Medusa, courage that conquered terror night, arrived with a quiet rustle, as if darkness itself were listening to this ancient tale. The story you'll hear is full of bravery and horror, yet it holds a great truth about how courage and determination can overcome the most terrifying obstacles. This is the tale of Perseus, a hero who brought light by defeating darkness. Perseus was the son of Zeus and Danae, daughter of King Achilles. From birth, he was tied to a fate that set impossible tasks before him. His story began with tragedy. Achilles, learning of a prophecy that foretold his death at his grandson's hands, tried to evade his fate. He locked his daughter in an underground chamber to prevent her from bearing a child. But as often happens, fate cannot be confined. Zeus, appearing in the chamber as a golden rain, gave Danae a son. Thus, Perseus was born, a boy linked to great trials from the start. When Achilles learned of his grandson's birth, he realized the prophecy would come true. In a rage, he ordered mother and son cast into the sea. But fate intervened again, and they were saved. Perseus and his mother ended up on a distant island where they were taken in by the kind King Polydectes. From childhood, Perseus grew bold and resolute, and soon fate led him to another great trial. Polydectes, wishing to be rid of Perseus, challenged him to an impossibly dangerous task: to slay Medusa. Medusa was one of the 3 Gorgons, fearsome creatures whose gaze turned people to stone. Medusa was especially horrific. Her hair was snakes, her eyes carried death. No one could meet her and live. It was a feat nearly impossible for any mortal. Yet Perseus accepted the challenge. He didn't hesitate. It was his destiny to achieve the impossible. With the gods' help, he received gifts: winged sandals from Hermes, a reflective shield from Athena, and a sword from Hephaestus, sharp enough to cut stone. But his greatest gift was his resolve. Perseus was ready to venture into the darkest depths to defeat the monster. Athena's wisdom aided his journey, giving him not only the shield, but advice on avoiding doom. He couldn't look at Medusa directly, as her gaze would turn him to stone. Instead, Perseus used the shield's reflection to see Medusa and locate her lair. Perseus and his companions traveled to the Gorgons' realm, where Medusa hid. The place was grim and terrifying, its silence broken only by the hiss of snakes writhing on her head. Everything was shrouded in shadow, each step leading to unknown fear. But despite his fear, Perseus pressed on, certain he couldn't abandon his path. Then he faced Medusa. She was a nightmare, the embodiment of darkness itself. The snakes on her head hissed, her eyes gleamed with the promise of death, but Perseus knew he had to prevail. Using his shield as a mirror, he approached her. When she turned, he thrust his sword into her throat, and as the gods foretold, she was slain. This victory wasn't just a feat of strength. It was a symbol that courage, resolve, and wit can defeat even the most fearsome forces. When Medusa was killed, her blood pierced the earth, giving rise to a monster, a marvel born of monstrosity. But Perseus was ready. Using the gods' gifts, he vanquished this creature too. By defeating Medusa, Perseus not only accomplished the impossible, but gifted humanity a vital lesson. Fear isn't the end. It's merely an obstacle to overcome. His story reminds us that monsters aren't always physical. They can dwell in our hearts or minds. But if we seek a path and believe in ourselves, we can conquer all fears. As you lie down to sleep, imagine your Perseus, facing dark fears and seemingly insurmountable obstacles. But within you is strength, the strength to pass through darkness without looking back. Like Perseus, you can overcome anything in your path. The Argonauts and the Golden Fleece, a hero's journey through darkness and light. Night fell upon the world, filled with stars, but also hidden secrets. All the events that form the foundation of great mythology unfolded in this very world, where every step concealed both light and darkness. The story you'll hear tells of heroes who, chasing a dream, faced terrifying trials and dark waters to achieve their goal. This is the tale of Jason and his glorious companions, the Argonauts. It began with Jason, a young and ambitious son of King Aeson, who was stripped of his rightful throne. His cruel uncle Peleus seized power and banished Jason from his homeland. But Jason wasn't one to simply give up. He turned to a prophecy that foretold he could reclaim his throne by completing an extraordinary task: retrieving the Golden Fleece. The Golden Fleece was tied to ancient magic and power. It lay in Colchis on the shores of the Black Sea, guarded by a fearsome monster, a dragon that let no one near. The myth of the Golden Fleece was known to all, and none dared attempt to claim it. But Jason, driven to restore his homeland, assembled a crew of the era's greatest heroes. He called them to join his great quest. They were the Argonauts. Their ship, named Argo after its builder, a master shipwright, was extraordinary, capable of enduring long journeys through turbulent waters. Jason brought along the bravest heroes: Orpheus, the brilliant musician; Hercules, the invincible warrior; Atlas, son of a Titan, and many others. These men and women were ready to face any trial for their noble cause. The journey was fraught with peril. The Argonauts encountered monsters, storms, and curses. One of their first trials was a sea filled with treacherous islands inhabited by dangerous creatures. On one such island, they met malevolent sirens, whose voices could lure ships to their doom. But thanks to Orpheus's songs played on his lyre, the Argonauts escaped death. Music was their shield, guiding them through the darkness. Next, they reached a place inhabited by the fearsome Stymphalian birds, giant, vicious creatures with metallic feathers that destroyed everything in their path. But the Argonauts didn't falter. Through agility, cunning, and bravery, they overcame this challenge and continued their quest. Yet the greatest trials lay ahead. Upon reaching Colchis, they faced their toughest task: obtaining the Golden Fleece, guarded by the dragon. The wise and aged King Achilles, ruler of Colchis, gave Jason a seemingly impossible challenge. He had to plow a field with the dragon's golden teeth and grow an army of warriors that would attack him. Only by defeating these warriors could Jason reach the fleece. It was a daunting task, but Jason wasn't alone. Medea, Achilles' daughter and a sorceress, fell in love with him at first sight and aided him. She gave him a magic potion to defeat the dragon. Medea taught Jason how to overcome enemies with the power of love and cunning. She helped him battle the dragon's teeth and provided a means to outwit the dragon. Following her guidance, Jason defeated the dragon, claimed the Golden Fleece, and returned home. Medea also helped him escape with the fleece, evading her father's wrath. This feat became a symbol that even the most terrifying trials can be overcome with support, determination, and the ability to act in critical moments. But the journey home wasn't easy. The Argonauts faced even more dangers. Pursuits, wars, and internal strife tested their resolve. Yet everything they endured only strengthened their spirit. Each hero, each step, brought them closer to their goal. When they returned home, they were finally hailed as heroes. Jason reclaimed his kingdom, while Medea, despite her crucial role, remained in the shadows. But her contribution was immense. She provided the key to victory, showing how love and wisdom can be powerful weapons against darkness. The Argonauts' journey reminds us that the greatest victories are won not just with physical strength, but through wisdom, determination, and self-belief. Like them, we all face obstacles that seem insurmountable, but in the toughest moments there's a chance for triumph if we trust ourselves and press forward. As you drift into sleep, imagine you're one of these heroes. Let your path be full of trials, but remember you have the strength to overcome them. Like the Argonauts, you can achieve your goal, conquering all that stands in your way. Sleep is your ship, and light is your guiding star. The sorrow of Helios. The fall of the sun, far beyond the ocean, at the edge of the earth where no mortal had trod, stood a radiant palace of pure gold, gleaming in the east. This was the home of Helios, the Titan and god of the sun. Each day he rose in his fiery chariot, drawn by 4 blazing steeds, carrying the sun across the sky's arc, casting light upon the world. Helios was all-seeing. Nothing escaped his gaze, not betrayal, love, failure, or glory. Even great Zeus sought his insight when truth eluded Olympus. But despite his omniscience, Helios was, above all, a father. His heart belonged to his young son, whom he named Phaethon. Phaethon was born to Clymene, a wise and virtuous mortal woman. From childhood he heard tales of his father, the sun god who lit the world and upheld justice. But as he grew, the children in his city mocked him. "You're the son of the sun? Then why do you cast an ordinary shadow? Why don't you shine like your father?" Phaethon suffered. He longed to prove his divine heritage, his right to be called the son of great Helios. One day, unable to bear the taunts, he set out for the edge of the world, where morning begins. He traveled for days and nights, crossing forests, mountains, deserts and oceans, until he reached the radiant palace hidden beyond the horizon. There, at the foot of an amber staircase, he first saw Helios. The sun god sat on a throne radiating unbearable light. Even immortal nymphs serving him dared not look at his face for long, but when he saw Phaethon, his gaze softened. He recognized his son. A spark of pride flared in his chest. Phaethon fell to his knees. "O great Helios, my father, if you truly sired me, grant me a sign, prove my lineage. Let me just once drive your fiery chariot. Let the world see, I am the son of the sun." Helios shuddered. He knew the strength required to traverse the sky. No mortal, nor even many gods, could hold the reins. But he had sworn his love to Phaethon, sworn by the river Styx, a vow even gods couldn't break. "You don't understand what you ask," Helios said. "My path is perilous. Even I, the sun god, struggle to control the horses when they charge wildly. At dawn there are steep climbs, at noon heat that melts the sky. At dusk, cliffs that crash with the wind. You won't manage, my son." But Phaethon stood firm. He knew no fear. Only the desire to prove his heritage burned brighter than any sun. Helios relented. He helped his son don golden armor, readied the chariot, and gave final instructions. "Don't soar too high, you'll scorch the sky. Don't dip too low, you'll burn the earth. Stay on the golden path. Don't look down. Don't fear Zeus's thunder. Above all, don't yield to the flames' fury." The chariot surged upward. Phaethon raced across the sky, at first with confidence. The earth below gleamed. Seas mirrored his path. Birds sang the dawn. He was ecstatic. He was the son of the sun. The world saw him. He no longer needed to prove his strength. But soon, the fiery horses sensed that Helios wasn't holding the reins. They went wild. Climbing too high, they seared the heavens, leaving cracks. Since then, the stars have shone dimmer at night. Then they plunged low, and flames licked fields, burned forests, and melted rivers. People prayed to the gods in terror. The earth cried out. Gaia, mother of all life, wailed to Olympus, "Zeus, great lord, save your children. The sun's sun will burn all that lives." Zeus didn't hesitate. He raised a lightning bolt and hurled it at the chariot. A thunderous roar like the end of the world echoed. Phaethon, engulfed in flames, fell from the sky, streaking across the world like a comet, and plunged into the river Eridanus, where the waters swallowed his body. When Helios learned of his son's fall, the sky's light vanished. For the first time since time began, the sun didn't rise. The world sank into darkness. People froze. Even the Olympians fell silent. Helios bent. Over the Eridanus, he couldn't bring his son back. Even gods can't always defy death. He didn't weep. The sun cannot cry. But every ray grew dimmer. From that day, light lost its carefree brilliance. It carried sorrow. The oceanids, water nymphs, retrieved Phaethon's body. They mourned him like sisters. From their tears grew trees whose sap became amber, tears for the son of the sun. The river Eridanus has since been sacred. People bring offerings there, remembering ambition, daring, and tragedy. The sun's chariot races across the sky once more, but Helios grips the reins tighter. He's grown sterner, quieter. And every morning when you see dawn paint the sky golden crimson, it's not just daybreak, it's memory. It's a father's voice, rising again and again, knowing he's lost what was dearest. Phaethon became a legend, not as a hero or victor, but as a symbol of how easily the quest for glory can blind, how fire, which gives life, can take it away, and how even gods are powerless against the heart's passion. Thus ends the story of the sun's son, but its whisper still lingers in the sky. Every sunset is his fall, every dawn his memory.